Hello and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures that Outperform. Today we're going to be talking about quiet quitting. It's been in the news a lot. It's been around before. We'll talk about what causes it, what you could do about it. I'm Frank Wander, and I'm here with my co-host Terry Mays. Ter, quick intro.
Hello, I'm Terry Mays, a certified culture engineer with emphasis on helping companies bring out the best in their people.
And I'm Frank Wander. I'm the founder of People Productive. We help companies create cultures that outperform by using the time, talent, energy of their people most effectively. So I hope you had a chance to catch the People Unproductive series. I hope you caught the series on belonging and how to create an incredibly deep sense of belonging in your organization or company. These are really valuable episodes. Every time you come here, really, you'll become a better leader. You're going to learn the human factors. We do this for you. We cover a lot of very timely topics. I hope you're enjoying them. So quiet quitting.
Yes.
This is, years ago, they called this actively disengaged. That's how this started many, many years ago. That was the original term for it. And I heard that term many times. And over the years, we would talk about people who are just kind of going through the motions of work as present but not productive. And, this has been around. It's a phenomenon where people become really just disenchanted, disengaged at work, and they show up and they collect a paycheck. And it's been happening a long time, and it is completely avoidable if you're a good leader and you get people motivated. Right, Tara?
Yeah, that's right. We've had people that just really do the bare bones minimum. They're not trying to do anything extra. They're only going to do what is required. They're not going to go above and beyond. I've worked at a company before where we called it the in-house PTO days, where people would just really they were present, they were physically there, but their mind was not there. They had no intentions of doing anything productive, just completely taking the day off while being at work.
In-house
And
PTO.
from time to time
That's incredible.
yeah, from time to time you have that feeling where you're just kind of tired, or you've got a lot happening and you want to take a little bit extra break time, or some time to wind down. We're not talking about just that one day here or there where you're just not feeling it. Everybody has those days where
Yeah.
they're working but they just don't really feel it, so they're doing what they need to do to make it through the day. But we're talking about people that are consistently, every single day, they are just doing the bare bones minimum. They're not trying to do anything extra.
Mhm.
So it's that kind of person that's working for you that's really milking all the productivity out of the room, because everybody knows, right? So everybody in the office knows that this person is not going to get a whole lot done, that they're not very productive, that maybe they spend a lot of time walking around talking to people and engaging, but they don't actually accomplish anything. People know that. So it really kind of is a morale killer when you allow people to be in the organization and not be productive. As a leader, you really do want to address it head on.
Yeah, it's interesting. This reminds me of the quote from Daniel Pink that leadership is a legacy technology. And, leadership evolved in the 1800s, in response to factories coming online and this industrial era mindset where people are parts still just, I don't know, it just imbues much too much of leadership still. And we're in an era where people are looking for much more than being a part. And
Yeah.
so many leaders and organizations don't know how to create an environment where people really have that deep sense of psychological safety, where the companies have gone out of the way to make sure that, the people understand that there's strategic trust. They know where the company's going. They know the future is going to be bright. They have a leader that cares about them, that shows they care. Terry and I have covered this because this is what creates belonging, quite honestly.
Yes.
And you can watch a belonging series if you really want to find out how to make somebody feel they belong. If you're quitting, if you're doing quiet quitting, you don't have any sense of belonging. And this phenomenon exists because leaders aren't creating environments people want to put down roots and stay in. Period. That's what it is.
Yeah.
People should feel they're growing, they're supported, and all of those leadership things that have been talked about for a very long time are front and center in an environment where people just don't feel it's worth it.
Yeah, people have to feel like they have a connection with the employees, with their coworkers, with their managers. Everybody has a part to play in that, in making people feel like they belong and where they can connect and put roots down. That's something that's so important, and it's often overlooked because people see it as more like just the warm fuzzies and, people are being friendly, but they're not really thinking about making real, true, lasting and meaningful connections. That's one of those things we've talked before about caring being one of those things where you need to make meaningful connections and you can't fake it. You
Yeah.
cannot just pretend that you care, but you really don't. People can sense that. They know when you're being genuine, when you're being honest and open with them. People can sense that. So make sure that you're genuinely caring about people because they can tell. They know when you're faking it and when you're not. So making those genuine connections with the people that work with you or work for you will make a huge difference in whether or not they fall into that space of disengagement or actively disengaged where they're just kind of physically present but absent.
Yeah. The fake it till you make it, that whole idea of, we're just going to act like we really care about stuff, and they talked about companies faking it till they make it, but leaders, they do try to fake their way through stuff. They fake like they're really interested in you. They run into you and they start chatting and, oh, how you doing? And they use one of these kind of useless comments that has really no meaning to it at all. And then they're half engaged while you're talking to them. You can see their mind is somewhere else. That's faking it. You're
Yep,
faking you care about the person. If you really care about them, you're genuinely interested in them. That means you're listening, you're paying attention, you're engaging in a real conversation. If you care about them, you've really sat down, tried to understand who they are, where they're going, what their goals are, trying to help them reach and attain those goals. Make sure that you're coaching and mentoring them if they want to move up and they're not a leader and they want to become a leader, giving them positions of influence that they can start to develop some more influence skills in a positive way. There's just so many things you can do to show you care about people.
yes,
And it's all just taking a real interest in them. And we've covered warmth, which is caring starts with warmth. And you wouldn't believe it, but that is what lead people want from the leaders more than anything. Lead and then connect, I think, was that article in Harvard Business Review, which talks about the importance of warmth. And it was the characteristic they found the research that most stood out. I mean, if you can't conquer that as a leader, you're just never going to have them put down roots. It's the most
that's
important
true.
thing, which we've talked about time and again. It is everything. You've got to create an environment where people feel that people sincerely care about them, not because they say so, but because of what they do, how they listen to them, and how they show they care. Acts of
Yeah,
kindness, recognition, worrying about their esteem, trying to make sure they have meaning at work and they find meaning. All these things that you would do if you really cared about somebody and you were lifting them up. So it's about lifting one another up for success. That's what this all comes down to.
that's right. And these are things that can be taught, right? So leaders can go through this leadership training and really start to understand how to help people connect and be how to make themselves more engaging and connected with the work and how to make the people the same way. But the last thing you wanna do is go through some training and then start engaging with people and make them feel like, "Oh, yeah, you just took a training course." So,
Yeah.
you get that feeling that they're just going through some laundry list of things that somebody told them to do. It's
Obvious.
serious. It's really people have they can pick up on that vibe, and we've talked about this
Yeah.
before, that sense of belonging, it's a feeling, it's not something that you can tangibly put your hands on, but people sense that. They actually feel like they belong or they don't. So, it's so important to make that genuine connection and to not go through kinda like textbook, "Do this, do this, do this." You don't wanna do that textbook case of trying to make people feel like they belong. You really do wanna take the time to genuinely care about them.
Mhm.
One of the things that really stood out to me and, a lot of the information Marcelo, you can bring up the key takeaways. A lot of this information that, we're sharing today came from a really good Forbes article from September 15th, 2020, and
Mhm.
I encourage you to go out there, but, the title of the article is "Why Half the Workforce is Quiet Quitting and
Mhm.
What to Do About It." So there's a lot happening in our workforce, and back here in 2020, or I'm sorry, 2022, back during this time, not many months ago, people are still recovering from all of what happened during the pandemic, as well as, people changing positions. We saw the great resignation happening. All of these things kind of have collided into having people in this space where they have been evaluating whether or not the current job that they have is the job that they want to keep. Is it a job where they feel fulfilled and where they've made some real true connections? So we encourage you to go take a look at that article because it really has some good information. But one of the things that stood out to me the most was that about half of the workforce is thinking
That's a
they're quiet quitters,
that's a
according to
broad
Gallup.
number.
That's a lot of people.
Every leader should listen to our series on belonging. If they did what's in there, there's no quiet quitting. If you genuinely did that, you get rid of quiet quitting right away because you
Yes,
create a sense of belonging, and then you can move people further up Maslow.
yes.
That really is what's required. They don't know how to create belonging, Terry. It starts
Yeah,
there.
that's absolutely it. But, there are some behaviors that leadership can engage in that will minimize quiet quitting and really eliminate it if you do it well. So, Frank mentioned this a little bit before about psychological safety, but that is huge,
Mhm.
especially in this time where we've seen so many just workplace violence reports and just so many things that have happened that just seem to be these explosive outbursts in the workplace. Um, that's one end of it. But then even having people that feel like their job is secure. So, Frank mentioned before about having people understand the organization's goals and where the business is going so that they know that the organization is safe and will be around. All of that plays into psychological safety. So, if you feel like your job is at risk, you're going to be in a heightened state of stress because you're concerned about your job. So, make sure that people know that they're a valued employee, that they'll be around, that they don't have to worry about that their positions are secure and that they are valued, a valuable member of the team. Make sure that they know that.
Yeah, no question. You
Yeah.
gotta communicate in
And
an open, honest way. You've got to let them know you sincerely care about them. And caring is an outcome, and there are a whole set of things you have to do to create that sense of caring. And I think it's so interesting that belonging is not an emotion, it's a feeling. And it's from
yes,
all these things happening that you go,
that's right.
oh, this place is for me.
Yes. You want to be one of those leaders that people can trust.
Mhm.
So you don't want to tell half truths, which are still whole lies.
Yeah.
You want to make sure that you're being honest with people. Sometimes there are things that you can't tell them. Say that. Say that you can't tell them, but when you can, make sure you share information that you can share and be an honest leader. Be open and make sure you're a person that people can trust because it's so important. Providing that career guidance for people so that they know what their career path options are, or even just giving them career advice or just showing them some different things about how they can progress in the company. All those things matter to people. Being accountable and doing that recognition, things that seem so small. Sometimes people just want to hear thank you. Sometimes they need a small token of appreciation. Sometimes they need a big token of appreciation. So you have to know the people and know how to recognize them in a way that's meaningful to them, not that's meaningful to you as a leader. So that is a very fine point that I think leaders often overlook because they're so focused on checking the box of doing recognition that they miss out on the opportunity to truly do something that's impactful to the people that work for them.
Mhm.
Having those one-on-one conversations, you want to make sure that you know your people individually. And we've beat this drum a lot, but it's so
Oh,
important. You've got to know people as an individual. People are not machines, they're not robots. You really do have to know them. There's not a one size fits all. Everybody's not the same. So you have to take the time and treat people like humans, individual, independent humans that are different and unique in every way. So you can't assume that because this level of recognition worked for one person, that's going to work for the next person. You really do need to get to know the people. And then being consistent, we can't say that enough. Consistent in your leadership, not being wishy washy and back and forth, not being any of those leadership types that we've talked about, being the
Yeah.
fearful leader. You don't want that. The
I
micro.
got a meeting with my boss. I'm not sure who's showing up,
Yes, you don't want to be the
That
know-it-all leader. We've talked about a few different leadership styles that are just not good. So make sure you take a look at those old series, old episodes in this last People Unproductive series. There were a lot of leadership styles that just really aren't good. So make sure
Yeah.
you're looking at that. And then know how to communicate those goals. The organization is really the heartbeat of what's happening. And so you want people to really understand what's going on in the organization. People are excited to come and work for companies. And so you don't want to kill that excitement by not giving them the company goals and strategies and help them see the vision for the future.
Yeah,
A
100%.
lot of what happens in leaders or in employee disengagement really is wrapped up in the leadership. Here's another quote from Gallup that'll kind of make you pause for a second. 70% of the variance in employee engagement can be tied back to the manager. So people don't leave companies, they leave managers. And that's a very true statement.
I think that really, really is true. Most of the time, sometimes it's just a horrible culture and they're part of it. But there's no question that leaders lead to quiet quitting. The lack of leadership, the lack of caring
Yes.
leadership, I would say.
Yes, very true.
Caring
So
leadership.
your move for this week is to make sure that you're doing those one-on-ones if you haven't been doing that already. Take some time to get to know the people that work for you.
Yeah. And, one-on-one tips, you've got to do developmental one-on-ones. These one-on-ones certainly can't be just check in on how work's going, right? Did you get this done? Did you get that done? It's really, how are you doing? Where are you going? What do you need help with? What do you wish were happening in those stay interviews instead
Yeah.
of quitting interviews, right? Where you go and get feedback after they've gone. You got to do a stay interview.
Yes, and personal development, people want to grow. Most people want to be productive. They really do want to make a good positive impact on the company bottom line, and they want to do well. So how can you help them as a leader with their personal development to become a better employee and a better person?
Yeah, I mean, this is just all about, making sure you understand these human factors of leadership, period. And you get them right and you understand how this builds up. There we go. Didn't put it on mute this week. Oh well. Yeah, I mean, I would say go back, take a look at our series on belonging. You can look at the human factors of leadership. That is a great, great series, very rich, lots of really good examples of why these things matter. What is the science behind them? What can you do about it as a leader? Ultimately, this is all about you becoming a better leader, right? So you come to the site because you're going to become a better you. Ultimately, you're going to lead better. You're going to understand this. This is the missing piece of the educational system right here on the site. And we cover so much. There is great content on the web, that you could go dig further into this if you want. But this is a great place to start. Dig around. Tremendous amount of insight you're going to get into how to build a culture that outperforms. Cultures that
That's right.
outperform do not have loads of quiet quitters, period. They have people who are motivated. They have leaders who care about the people and know. I mean, we go out and assess companies. I'm just amazed at what a good company looks like when you assess them versus one that's just an okay company. I mean, the comments that come back, we're a family. I love coming in here. Wow, it's real diverse. Everybody's fun. It's just, you read it and you just know this is a place where the roots are deep. And
It's a place where you want to show up every day, right? Who wants to work at a company where they hate it and they dread Monday mornings?
Yeah.
Nobody wants that.
That was 19 back for me in the 80s when I worked at Chase Manhattan Bank. I got up one day after 9 months and said, I don't want to go in. And it had been building for a while, and I got to get out of here. I remember that. I didn't quiet quit, but I actively looked. Let me tell you, I was, on fire trying to get out of there because I said I can't go on like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was terrible. That department was just awful, really awful. Anyway, I found great places after that. Fortunately,
That's good.
many of them. All good. So, listen, next week we're going to be talking about another very important topic: how to lead from anywhere. I don't think there's a skill more important in this day and age than really making sure the remote workers are engaged and hybrid workers are engaged. As we assess companies and we look at these cohorts, I'm a hybrid worker, I'm a remote worker, I'm an office worker. Invariably, the remote workers have a lower level of engagement and belonging than than the hybrid and office workers. And they're not feeling the love as much as others, especially people who've been hired remote and have never really integrated themselves into the culture. People who are part of the culture, they're already in the fabric of the place. Everybody worked remote. Now they're coming back. They have relationships they could lean on. They already existed. So it's really important. And, you can have remote quiet quitters, obviously, which is even worse. They'd be the hardest to spot, I think.
That's right. That's right. So tune
Yeah.
in next week. It's going to be
Yeah.
a good one.
Tune in next week. We'll see you then.
All
Wednesday.
right. Bye for now.
Here.